What's poppin', everybody? This is Wolf94. Title says it all. In this video, I'm gonna discuss a few cards that, in my opinion, are bad designed. And when I say bad designed, I mean that when the Pokemon Company, when the designers were thinking about them, designing their effects, maybe they should have thought about their effects a little bit more, like balance them out a little bit. And you guys are gonna see what I mean with a lot of these cards. So this is just going to be my opinion, keep that in mind. And this is going to be about cards that are in some way or form relevant in the standard or expanded format. I'm not going to look through all of the cards in the history of the TCG and find all of the cards that are perhaps maybe badly designed. This is just going to focus on our current format, expanded and standard. So here it goes. The first card I'm going to talk about, maybe some of you are going to be a little bit surprised, but it is going to be Battle Compressor. I've been playing the Pokemon TCG for more than a decade, but I've been playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG since the beginning, and I know the power of a card like this, a card that puts other cards in the discard pile / graveyard if you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! When I first seen this card in the review of Puka's Phantom Forces, man, good old days, I knew that this card was going to be very intense. Some people thought the Night March deck was going to be some sort of fun gimmick, but then people quickly realized that it's a real competitive deck and very, very scary. Battle Compressor, with this effect of putting 3 of any cards in the discard pile, is not balanced at all. When you consider all of the cards we have that gain a lot of effects and gain a lot of value when they're put in the discard pile, like Ho-Ho EX, then you've got some other cards like Execute, which the card has a whole different problem. And putting any supporter, being able to grab anything back with VS Seeker, it's almost like you're searching any supporter you want. And all of the other rad combos you can do, where you can put Darkness Energies, get them back with Dark Patch, Water Energies do the same. Just all of the different rad combos you can make with a card like this is not a very healthy effect. What the effect should have been at best, if they're going to make a card that puts cards in the discard pile, it should have been you put maximum 2. Maybe 1 is going to be too little for Pokemon, but at best it should have been search your deck for up to 2 cards and discard them. Because you guys know what this card contributes to. It thins your deck super quickly. It really just makes these sort of dark turbo decks and any sort of turbo deck much faster, and really what makes those decks work and be so aggressive in the first place. And maybe some of you are going to tell me, well, if this card, if they just made it like this, Night March would have been much weaker, Vespiquen would have been much weaker. Doesn't matter. That sort of combo and interaction is strong for a reason, and if they're going to be a little bit nerfed, then so be it. Putting any 3 cards in the discard pile is very, very strong, and in the future, maybe it's not going to happen now, but if they continue to create super strong cards like Ho-Ho EX, I mean, when Ho-Ho EX was released in Dragons Exalted, this didn't exist, and other cards that have very strong effects in the discard pile and all of the combinations you can do, I see this card being ban worthy. For now, maybe it's just okay. It's just badly designed. They should have made it put 2 cards, not 3, because it's too much. Then it would have been at least a bit slower. But nevertheless, Battle Compressor, one of those cards that many people don't think about, but it's actually very, very strong. Very, very unbalanced, I could say. The next card, and what really inspired me to make this sort of video, it's going to be the Marshadow from Shiny Legends. Pretty much fuck this card. I was really iffy on it, trying to figure out if it's really this broken or if it's maybe fair enough. The effect is fair enough, but it's too much. Let loose when your opponent plays this turn 1, and you essentially start with 2 less cards from what you were gonna have. It's a really shitty interaction. Now, in the past, in the DP format, we've had Giratina from Platinum that basically had the same effect. But you got to keep in mind, context is key. Back then, even though a card with the same effect existed, the format was much different. The interactions were much different. There was no way to search Giratina instantly in your hand really easily. There was no Ultra Ball. There wasn't really any way to easily search the card in your hand, to my knowledge anyway. to get that Pokemon on the bench, to get that Pokemon in hand and then play it on the bench to get the effect. And this is why, a card like Giratina, it did see play in decks like Sableye, where the whole point was to once again control your opponent. But I mean, this Marshadow card, we've already seen its significance. The best example is the championship final for the European National Championships, recently that just happened. You guys can see the difference a card like this can make. Gustava Wada played first. You play this card down, minimize the opponent's hand. And I'm not saying the dude didn't deserve the win. He's a great player, and that he dominated that top 8, I would say. But a card like this just plays such a significant role. It's just too much of an unfair card. What they should have made with this card, the effect, should have been at least draw 5 cards, maybe 5 or 6. Because if they made it like that, at the very least, if your opponent does play it down, you only lose like 1 card from your hand, and your opponent has wasted a spot on the bench having this little Pokemon around with an ability. It could cause all sorts of problems. So that's the sort of risk and reward you have to balance out. But when it's just 4 cards, play this down, both players shuffle and draw 4. I mean, it messes up your opponent's hand immensely. It's nothing like N. It's a completely different animal. You can just start immediately and thin your opponent's hand while you draw cards too. So I really despise this card. I'm really looking forward to the rotation where it's going to go away. I hope they don't reprint it again. But even then, it's always going to be around in the expanded format. And that is very annoying. I mean, I can't tell you how many games I've lost where they do this turn 1 and I have a completely unplayable hand, can't do anything, and it really pisses me off. It's the #1 card that pisses me off. No other card has pissed me off over the years. Not even Seismitoad EX, not Laser, just is the #1 card that pisses me off. But anyways, moving forward, the next card is going to be the Hypnotoxic Laser, speaking of which. So unless they print another sort of Hypnotoxic Laser style of card where they just inflict triple or quadruple status or something, this card is always going to be good. If they just made this card with the effect your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, it would have still been a good card and it would have been okay. It was completely unnecessary for them to add the flip a coin, and if heads, your opponent, it's asleep too. That's double status. It's really annoying. This card has always decided games ever since it was released. In Plasma Storm, when you play this card, it's so easy, and your opponent becomes asleep, they don't wake up, and you get a free turn like that when they don't have an out. It's not ban-worthy. Marshadow is ban-worthy in my opinion. This card isn't ban-worthy. It's just one of those half there cards, but it's definitely one of those badly designed cards where just inflicting poison was good enough. It was already going to be a good card if you had just had the inflict poison effect. But no, they decided to make it inflict sleep too on a coin flip chance. So Hypnotoxic Laser, another card that is badly designed in a way. And then we're going to move on to Shaman EX. Okay, so Shaman EX, another card, basically the same example as with Marshadow. In the past, in the DP format, we had Uxie from Legends Awakened that had the exact same effect and even stronger. You play that Pokemon down and you draw until you have 7 cards, not 6. But context is key once again. Back then, there was no Ultra Ball. There was no, the speedy options and the broken supporters like Juniper and all the other stuff we have now in the standard and expanded format. So even though Uxie was still a very good card that was seeing a lot of play, it wasn't on the level of Shaman. Shaman was basically the engine. It's basically the engine in a lot of these turbo decks. These Zoroark, Greninja / Darkrai X turbo decks. All the other decks that used it, Rayquaza of course, and all of the other, rad, speedy, aggressive decks. This card basically helps out when you draw your whole deck. Seismitoad. It's just the list goes on and on. The effect should have been once per turn, the same way they made Dedenne. You're only going to get this effect once per turn, and if you want to run more shamans and play more of them, wait until next turn. That's how the effect should have been. I hope you guys don't really misunderstand what I mean here. You know, Uxie was a very, very strong card back in its day, but like I've said, you have to think of the format, think of the all the other available cards, the card pool in general, and the feel and pace the format has. But Shaman EX, another card that, in my opinion, needed that little tweak when they were designing it. If it just had that little tweak where it was only once per turn, the card would have still been good. Turbo decks, those style of turbo decks would have still been, you know, good and could have seen play the way they are. But they were just gonna have to wait, not use millions of shamans in one turn, and maybe adjust their deck a bit differently. So Shaman EX, in my opinion, another sort of badly designed card, needed that little tweak once per turn. Next up, we're going to move to Lucemon. I've talked about this card before. This card is banned and expanded, but it's still around in the standard format. And since this card is reprinted in Ultra Prism, even with the rotation, it will still be around, which is why I didn't talk about it in my rotation video. This card is perfectly fair. The problem with this card is that it has this sort of loop effect where it can grab itself from the discard pile. They should never be cards that allow themselves to be looped, that they can grab themselves back and then reuse it, grab the other one again, and this whole interaction. In Lucemon, you can put any combination of supporters and stadiums from your discard pile into your hand, grab two of them, but you can grab Lucemon, so you can infinitely, you know, grab and recycle cards to no end. You know, with the right sort of combination of cards in your deck, you could like maybe make yourself not deck out. You can do all sorts of things, and these interactions should not exist. It should have been get any supporter besides Lucemon. That should have been the effect. Next up, we're going to move to some cards I already talked about many times, but I'm not just going to talk about them being banned. They're badly designed as well, and it is going to be, well, the first one, Archie here. I'm not going to talk about Maxi because it's already banned, but this guy is still around and it basically has the same effect. These cards are badly designed because they kind of break the rules of the game, letting you get a stage 2, Mega Evolution, Primal Pokemon, like you can grab Primal Kyogre with this if you want to, just about anything from the discard pile and play it instantly on your bench. Now, if they're going to make a card like this, the effect should have been, okay, you get that sort of a stage 2, you get that Pokemon, whatever, but you only get to draw like maybe 2 cards or something, not draw 5 cards, so that you have a solid hand to work with too and keep going. That's the whole thing. If you're going to make a supporter that's going to get you a stage 2 instantly like that in play, and you're going to build your deck around the supporter, don't give it an effect where it draws 5 cards too. Make it at least draw 2. If they had this sort of effect where you just draw 2 cards, then perhaps both Maxi and this Archie card could have stayed in the format and expanded. But in my opinion, the way they are, they already banned Maxi, and they should ban Archie too, because it's the same effect on water Pokemon. It only makes sense. I can't believe they didn't do it yet. And then the last card, once again another card I mentioned quite a few times, is this Execute. Now, I talked about this card needing to get banned, but if it just had a slightly more balanced effect where it was only once per turn, but you only get the effect once per turn, not when you dump Execute you can use the effect again, when you dump Execute you can reuse the effect again, and you can use multiple executes with propagation. It should have been completely once per turn, because like I've compared this before with Yu-Gi-Oh! Sinister Serpent was a card that basically had the same effect. You could grab it back, and it made all of the best cards costless. The cards that required discarding for their effects, they put those discarding costs for a reason. You know, Ultra Ball, you gotta discard 2 cards to grab any Pokemon for a reason, because you can grab any Pokemon is a great effect. Zorok GX, you gotta discard a card for a reason to draw 2 cards, because it's a strong ability. There's a reason they put those costs, and when you can easily, you know, play around them, it just makes all the cards that are already broken so much more broken. Like it makes Skyfield worse, it makes Zorok GX a billion times worse, it makes Archie a billion times worse. This card contributes to every very good card or slightly ban-worthy card. It just makes it a million times worse. That's what it does. You can play these execute, use them as fodder to play them down on your field with Skyfield, boost Zorok GX's attack, boosts other Pokemon attack, do that sort of combo. You can use this, discard it as many times as you want. If you have like 3 Zorok GXs down, no worries, you don't have to discard anything. You're just going to draw 6 cards. Don't even discard cards from your hand as long as you have this execute. It's just a badly designed effect. I don't know what they were thinking when we were designing this. And the same goes for the other cards mentioned here. You know, these cards, some of them are ban worthy, but if they had just a slightly different effect, a more balanced out effect, you know, they can be okay. I mean, execute, if it had just a once per turn effect completely, it would have still been a good card. You just don't get to exploit it and abuse it so much. Same with, you know, Shaman, same with Marshadow, Laser, Lucemon, all of these cards. So these are the main cards that in my opinion, are badly designed and they needed a little bit more balance, a little bit more thought when they were making their effects. There are a few other minor ones that I do want to mention, like Max Potion. Max Potion is a more minor card, but you gotta admit it's a broken effect. What they should have done with this card is make it so that you gotta discard at least one energy, because otherwise it makes all the other healing cards look pathetic, like Potion, you know, Super Potion, everything else. It makes them completely ass. The fact that you can just use a Max Potion, heal, you know, 200 damage and, you know, heal a Wailord completely, heal any Pokemon completely like that, and you don't have to pay anything. It's a bit much. I mean, this card has been the focus, the heart and soul of many different decks that wanted to use this sort of healing stall strategy, move energies around, heal the Pokemon, and move the energies around. Aromatisse, you know, you had the Darkrai, Klinklang deck, you know, Max Potion. It's not on the level of the other cards I mentioned here, but just another little mention, badly designed in a way maybe. Anyways, guys, these are just the first cards that come to my mind, the most glaring cards, I would say, of the format. There's probably many others in expanded and standard, and if you look through the history of the TCG, there's been other cards like the original Sneasel that got banned in the Wizards format, and many cards that were badly designed. There's a difference between a card that is badly designed and a card that is very good. Like a card like Zorok GX is freaking broken, but it's a fair card in a way. It's just a very good card. These cards, however, they contribute to broken interactions that are just too broken. They're just unfair cards, and they're not balanced cards in a way. Most of them we're going to have to deal with them. Like, I don't think they're ever going to ban Shaman, and I mean, Shaman isn't really a problem. It is a fair card as well. It's just the fact that you can use it multiple times per turn. That's the problem. Same with Execute. You know, I've already talked about Marshadow, Compressor, all of these cards. So anyways, wrapping the video up, these are my thoughts. Leave down in the comments what you guys think. If you guys agree, if you disagree, maybe some other cards. Like I've said, these cards aren't exactly, some of them are ban worthy. Like if they're not going to errata them, Execute needs to get banned, Archie needs to get banned. I hate Marshadow, so I would love to see that card banned too. The other ones, you know, they're kind of halfway there, you could say, like Shaman, Battle Compressor, Laser, yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed, hope you guys subscribe, leave a like, and share this video with your friends. My channel is an excellent hub for all things TCG, so hope you guys subscribe and check out my other videos. Cerebral 4, was say.